At exactly 7:30 on a Sunday morning, someone knocked on my door. When I opened it, I saw a little girl standing there. She was holding an old photograph. "Are you Emma?" she asked. I nodded. She looked at the photograph, then back at me. "This is my father," she said. "I think he is your father too." I froze. My father had been dead for 6 months. I thought I knew everything about him, but that little girl was standing in front of me with a photograph of my father, and she wasn't alone. A woman was standing behind her. I had never seen her before. I didn't know it then, but that Sunday morning was going to change everything I believed about my family. I was 28 years old and lived with my mother in a small town. My father, Daniel, had always been a quiet man. He worked hard and rarely talked about his feelings. Every morning, he left home at 7. Every evening, he came back at 6. At least, that was what I believed. My father died after a short illness, and after his funeral, my life slowly returned to normal. One afternoon, I helped my mother clean my father's things. We found his old clothes, his books, his watch, and many family photographs. Everything looked normal. Then I found a small wooden box that had belonged to him. Inside was an old key. There was also a piece of paper. I picked it up and read one sentence. It said, "For Anna, I am sorry." I stared at it for several seconds. "Who is Anna?" I whispered. My mother walked into the room. I showed her the paper. The moment she saw it, her face changed. "Where did you find that?" she asked. "In Dad's box." She took the paper from my hand. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then she folded it and put it in her pocket. "Forget about it," she said. But I knew immediately that there was something she wasn't telling me. "Mom, who is Anna?" I asked. She looked away. "No one." "But Dad wrote her name." "Emma, please." It was the first time I had ever seen my mother look afraid. That night, I couldn't sleep. Who was Anna? Why had my father written her name? And why did my mother refuse to talk about her? I kept thinking about that one sentence. "For Anna, I am sorry." The next morning, I asked my mother again. This time, she finally spoke. "Your father had a life before you were born." I frowned. "Everyone has a life before they have children." "No," she said quietly. "I mean another life." My heart started beating faster. "What are you saying?" My mother looked down. Then she said something I never expected to hear. "Before we married, your father was involved with another woman." I felt shocked. "Did he love her?" I asked. "I don't know," my mother replied. "Who was she?" I asked. She looked at me. Her name was Anna. I immediately remembered the paper. "For Anna, I am sorry." Then I asked the question that had been growing inside me. "Did Dad have a child with her?" My mother didn't answer. That silence was enough. "So I have a sister?" I asked. My mother sighed. "I don't know." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You don't know?" She shook her head. "Your father never talked about it." I felt angry. For 28 years, I had believed I knew my father. Now I realized there were parts of his life I knew nothing about. 3 days later, I found an old address inside the wooden box. I searched for the place online. It was only 20 minutes away. That afternoon, I drove there. The house was small and old. I parked outside and sat in my car for several minutes. I wasn't sure if I should knock. Finally, I got out and walked to the door. An elderly woman opened it. "Yes?" she asked. I took a deep breath. "I'm sorry to bother you. I'm looking for someone named Anna." Her eyes widened. "Who are you?" she asked. "My name is Emma." The woman became completely silent. Then she slowly opened the door wider. "Come inside." I followed her. The house was filled with old photographs. Then I saw one picture on the wall. It was my father. I stared at it. "That's Daniel," I whispered. The woman nodded. "He was here many times." My heart started beating faster. I looked at her. "Are you Anna?" She looked at me for a long moment. "Yes," she said. Anna sat down and looked at me carefully. "I knew one day you might come." I didn't know how to respond. "You knew about me?" I asked. She gave me a sad smile. "Your father talked about you." My eyes filled with tears. "Then why did he never tell me about you?" I asked. Anna looked away. "Because he was afraid." "Afraid of what?" I asked. She took a deep breath. "Afraid of losing everything." Anna told me the story. She had met my father when they were young. They loved each other, but their relationship ended when his family refused to accept her. My father eventually left. Later, he met my mother and married her. Years passed, but there was one thing my father had never told my mother. Anna had been pregnant. She had given birth to a daughter. I sat there silently, trying to understand what I was hearing. "Her name was Lily," Anna said. My hands began to shake. "Where is she?" I asked. Anna looked toward the hallway. "She lives with me." Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around. A little girl was standing in the doorway. She looked about 10 years old. "This is Lily," Anna said. I stared at the girl. She looked at me carefully. Then she asked, "You are my sister?" I nodded slowly. "I think I am." Lily smiled. "I knew it." I was surprised. "You knew?" She nodded. "Dad told me about you." I froze. "Dad?" Lily smiled again. "He used to visit us." I could barely speak. "My father came here?" I asked. "Yes," Anna said. "Not very often, but he came." Suddenly, everything felt real. My father had another family, another home, another daughter. I spent the next hour talking with Lily. She showed me photographs. There were pictures of my father holding her hand, helping her ride a bicycle, and sitting beside her on her birthday. In one photograph, he was laughing. I had never seen that side of him. "He was happy here," Lily said. I looked at the photograph for a long time. "Yes," I whispered. "He was happy." And somehow, that hurt. For the first time, I understood that my father had made choices that had hurt people. I didn't know whether to hate him or miss him. Before I left, Anna gave me an envelope. "Your father left this for you," she said. My hands were shaking when I opened it. Inside was a letter, I recognized his handwriting immediately. For a moment, I couldn't bring myself to read it. Then I took a deep breath. My father wrote that he was sorry. He admitted that he had been a coward. He said he had wanted to tell me the truth many times, but every time he tried, he became afraid. He was afraid that I would hate him. He was afraid that my mother would leave him, and he was afraid that he would lose both families. I read the letter slowly. I wanted to be angry, but I also felt sorry for him. Then I reached the final part of the letter. It made me cry. He wrote, "I know I made mistakes, but please do not let my mistakes decide what happens between you and Lily." I folded the letter and wiped my eyes. Lily was standing nearby. She looked nervous. Then she asked me, "Will you come back?" I looked at her. For the first time that day, I smiled. "Yes," I said, "I will." When I got home that evening, my mother was sitting in the living room. She looked at me and immediately understood. "You found them," she said. I nodded. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. She looked tired. "Because I was angry." "Were you angry with Dad?" I asked. "Yes." I was quiet for a moment. Then I asked, "And with Anna?" My mother shook her head. "No, mostly with myself." I didn't understand. "What do you mean?" I asked. My mother looked at the floor. "I spent years pretending everything was perfect. I thought if I never talked about it, the pain would disappear. I sat beside her, but it didn't." She shook her head. "No, it didn't." We sat together in silence. Then I said something that surprised even me. "Mom, I have a sister." My mother looked at me. "Yes," she said quietly. I took a deep breath. "I'm going to know her." My mother nodded slowly. "I think you should." That night, I placed the old photograph beside my bed. For years, I had thought my father was the person I knew best. Now I understood that people can carry secrets for many years. Sometimes we think we know someone completely, but we only know the part they choose to show us. I couldn't change what my father had done. I couldn't give my mother back the years she had lost. I couldn't give Lily the childhood she deserved. But I could choose what happened next. That was something my father could no longer decide for me. I didn't want his mistakes to become my mistakes. I didn't want anger to decide my future. I wanted to understand the truth and then decide what to do with it. The following Sunday, I went back to Anna's house. Lily was waiting outside. The moment she saw me, she smiled. "Are you staying for lunch?" she asked. I laughed. "Yes, I am." We walked into the house together. As I looked at her, I realized something important. I had gone there looking for the truth about my father. Instead, I had found a sister. I never expected that to happen. I knew there would be difficult days ahead. I might feel angry again. My mother would need time. Lily would probably have many questions, and I would have questions too. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid of the truth. I had spent 28 years believing my family was complete. Now I understood that family could be complicated, painful, and unexpected, but perhaps it could also become something new. My father had made mistakes, big mistakes. I couldn't change them, but I could decide what I would do with the truth he left behind. I could forgive without forgetting. I could love without pretending the past had never happened. And I could give Lily something my father had failed to give her, a sister who knew the truth and still chose to stay. That was how I decided to end my father's secret. And that is the end of my story. If you are learning English, listen to the story again and try to repeat some of the sentences aloud. Don't worry if you don't understand every word the first time. Listen again, notice the expressions, and practice speaking them. The more you listen to natural English, the easier it becomes to understand and use it yourself.